66 or something on Discord, so I just upped you to 175 because you were a tiny bit quiet, but you're fine now.
Hey, perfect.
And now I gotta probably turn you down my headphones because I lean so close to the microphone that it picks
Heavy
it up through my
breathing.
headphones.
Lip smacking noises.
Well, I've got a pop filter, so thankfully, if I do the pop, 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 you don't get that harsh noise. You know, this blocks a lot of the bad sounds. Thankfully, it blocks a lot of those terrible mouth sounds too, like those. Yeah.
That's how people get their ASMR / music review experience.
Yeah, you say that, but actually, I can't remember. The other day, I was checking to make sure. What is it? We had been talking about something, and I was like, "Crap! Did that go out in the actual episode, or was that before the episode?" So I was checking, and this microphone that I have is not supposed to pick up the bass as much. It's a much more high wavelength microphone.
Right.
But holy crap, am I still super bassy? And I don't think I have a very deep voice personally, but
I would say it's crazy deep. Maybe it just picks up bass sounds better. I know some.
It's not supposed to though. But it's really difficult to listen on anything other than headphones because I was playing it through my phone speaker and it was hard to hear me just because the better the microphone quality, the more range it has, you know.
Right.
And yours has a much smaller range and it's skewed higher. So it's not going to just pick up the bass. It's picking up, you know, the actual sounds you're making. But mine, apparently, even though it's not supposed to pick up as much as the bass, it still picks up quite a bit of the bass. And makes it difficult to hear on anything other than headphones. I can't imagine if somebody was like driving, as if anyone's driving in their car trying to listen to this. But another podcast I listen to, I know that's an issue. One of the host's voices, he has a really deep voice, and it's difficult to hear him on the road because the road frequency is about the same frequency as his voice. So no matter how much you turn it up, you can't hear him. So.
Well, that's interesting. I didn't realize that could happen.
Yeah.
I like that just the way. Technology, man.
Mm-hmm.
What a concept.
So, since nobody ever listens to these beginning bits anyway, what's the plan for this weekend? Do we know what day I'm coming up or?
Oh, did you get in touch with Malia? Said she'd send you a text about it. Did she ever do that?
I don't think so, but it's also possible GroupMe was being a little butt. So let me look. I gotta send out the.
We were talking about
texts anyway.
And you can talk with her more about it. Of you coming up, because Alkai is flying into Indy, right, on a Thursday.
Mm-hmm. So I imagine I'm picking him up.
If you want to, just coming up on Thursday, and you can stay the night at my place, and then we can all skedaddle on Friday after classes are done.
Let's see. No, she did not text me. So.
She probably just forgot.
Yeah, I can't blame her.
She was rather frazzled today, so.
Yeah, well, she was frazzled last semester. I can't imagine this semester.
It's school. School's school. Yeah.
What am I doing? Here we go. I forgot to, because I was talking about the microphone, I forgot to do all my usual stream start things. Oh wait, no, I want to do this in Chrome. I'm logged into on Firefox. I'm logged into my normal Twitch account, but on Chrome I'm logged into Audio Shop because it makes it easier
just to switch back and forth.
Yeah. Oh wait, no, I'm not. Crap, I'm logged in.
I've always been there, even before anybody.
Shut up. I'm logged in to the wrong one on both. Oh well, quick change. Oh, come on. I appreciate two-factor authentication, but
I don't. I mean, I couldn't get those boots.
That's a good point. I really wanted them though, just because I couldn't have them.
We want what we cannot have.
Exactly. Okay, here we go. Oh, mute. There we go. And now I can send the message. All right. So I always send the podcast to friend group A as well, but I don't think any of them have ever really tuned in. I think they have once or twice, but
well, who's the real friends here then?
I mean, you're always in it, so you're always listening.
I'm always listening.
Yeah, I mean, I hope you are anyway.
No, actually, I mute you. I just guess what you're saying.
Well, you're pretty good at that then. That's impressive.
Same. No,
right. Make sure I mute my phone. Nope, not turn data on. That's not good.
You ready to hop right into it, my chap?
Chap. I get it. Well, before we start, I was going to ask you, do you think I should tag this as pop music as well, or just hip hop?
I think it's hip hop.
Just hip hop?
Yeah.
All right.
I don't really want to say this is popular music.
I don't know. I was just there's very few music tags, so
that's true.
World music.
Does Britain count part?
What?
Does Britain count as part of the world?
Yeah, I guess. Isn't world music just anything made outside of the United States? What's the technical classification?
I mean, typically when people say world music, it means like not first world countries.
I mean, kind of the first general. World isn't even really a.
I'm not saying. That's what I'm saying. It's very nebulous.
It's any music that's not Western music.
Yeah, exactly. So,
okay,
quote unquote first world.
So it's forms of music that Westerners consider ethnic, indigenous, folk, neo-traditional, non-Western. Okay. And music where more than one culture mix.
Yeah, so this is not world music.
Yeah. All right, yeah, let me swap the scene real quick and we can get on a roll.
Jump on it.
All right, I was just making a change Matt suggested real quick. All right. Well, hello there. Thank you for tuning in. My name is Sam.
And my name is Cooper.
And as you hopefully know, this is the Audio Shop podcast. I've completely forgotten how we start these, even though we just did one last week.
We do, but we had a guest last week, so it's like a fresh start.
That's true.
Yeah, but we're jumping into this week. This is album number 16 of the ones we've reviewed. We'll be reviewing a cute little album called Can't Stop Shan't Stop by Mr. B, the Gentleman Rhymer.
Oh. And you may remember this was an artist I talked about in the Spare Tire last week. Hopefully Cooper tweeted out that we were doing a podcast.
I did. I always do.
He did. All right. He's on top of it for now.
Yeah. Yeah. So, hey, I'm always on top of it. Never missed it, not once.
I know that's false.
You can't prove it though.
I can scroll back in the Twitch log. I have it here now.
It's probably deleted itself by accident. Yeah, but as the title implies, we're gonna be looking at a pretty interesting subgenre of hip hop and rap. Sam, since you're the one who discovered this, would you like to give a little bit of background on what Can't Stop, Shan't Stop is all about?
Sure, I'd be happy to. So, Can't Stop, Shan't Stop is a chap hop album, which is basically hip hop with a stereotypically British flair. So, not quite Victorian, but close. Kind of pronunciation, very proper. The Queen's English, if you will.
Almost steampunk-esque.
Yeah, kind of, except more Victorian skewed than steampunk. If you took a Victorian person and they were okay with the modern world and then they started making hip-hop music, that's the best
That's basically what this is.
Yeah. This album came out in 2013. It was the third studio album of Jim Burke, who's a British rapper who kind of made this alter ego of Mr. B and just kind of ran away with it. And he actually just released an album in 2019, but this one is much more, I'm sure you can attest to this, Cooper, much more old school hip hop, I'd say.
Well, it's,
or at least it feels in the structure.
Definitely more rap lyrically. Yeah, I know how you said the new album's a little more vocal based, which is actually
interesting. The new one is much
It's
more
a lot of
actual songs. There's not much rapping or rhyming, if you will.
Which is actually not an uncommon trajectory for hip hop artists to take. So, which is interesting. But
is it hip hop at that point? I feel like it just
hip hop. Especially nowadays, hip hop and like R&B kind of they fuse together a little bit in some spheres. It's not uncommon, like your Anderson Paaks, right? Or Pox.
I don't know who that is.
Ooh, I'll have to look into him sometime. I think you'd enjoy him. And then, but we're not talking about Anderson Paak right now. We're talking about Mr. B. And yeah, so this is a, like Sam was saying, chap hop, basically, hip hop, British. It's kind of played in this realm, at least since I was getting kind of as parody in a sense. Definitely played for laughs in a lot of situations. Kind of poking fun at the British hip hop scene, which is also some sectors call it grime. The grime is a lot dirtier hip hop.
Yeah, this is definitely not grime.
Which I'm saying is kind of poking fun at it in concept as much as in music.
I see.
But yeah, so this is definitely this album doesn't take itself super seriously.
Although it does have some
points
messages
to say
in it, yeah.
Some of them more irrelevant than others.
Yes.
But
like track number 1, if you're ready to hop right into it.
Yeah, let's do it.
Shell Toes or Brogues. Now this was the song that started it all for me. It popped up in my Spotify discovery. You know how much I harp on that every single week of how amazing it is.
It's a great resource.
It is, and
for discovering new music.
It knows me so well somehow. I think I should be concerned, but
the algorithm.
Yeah. I think the only thing they have on me is what kind of messed up music I listen to. So,
like Jap Hop.
Exactly. And it's hard to describe. It's a very simple beat, this one. And this is one of his more popular songs, actually. If I remember, it's either 4th or 5th on his popularity page on Spotify, anyway. Very, very stripped back beat. It's got a hi-hat, it's got a bass, piano, that's it. And it's very repetitive in the background, but that's fine because the focus is completely on the lyrics. The backing track is just there to be the backing track.
Yeah, this one definitely. If you're saying I can get what you say when you say like a more old school style, in songs like this where the instrumentation is pretty simple. It's more of it's like in a sandwich. The bread carries it, right? It doesn't really draw attention to itself as much.
Yeah.
But there is some instrumentation later in this album that's a little more intricate, has a little more stuff going. But yeah, this one is directly focused on the vocals. And it, as you will notice completely right off the bat, the rap style that Mr. B presents is rather unique.
Very unique.
Very pomp, very proper, uses a lot of old-timey vernacular. So they're slanging it, but it's slang from like the 1900s. So the early 1900s.
I had to look up one of the later songs uses the word bonce, which is very, very old British slang for head. It's just constantly kind of things throughout. Although there's one point later on I will point out where he didn't quite live up to that British kind of twang that he had going. But for this one is I got a lot of good things going on. And then later on, the trombone comes in. Oof, love it.
Yeah, he also has like a lot of I guess a kind of brass instrumentation on this album, which is
really
pretty unique.
Really only trombone.
There's some trumpet later on as well.
You're gonna have to point that out when we get to it.
I'll point it out when we get to it. But yeah, so trombone paired with like this honky tonk piano. The synth's rather farty, but it works on this song. Mm-hmm. And during the song, as the title may imply, he's rapping about shell toes or bros, which are, I guess, types of British footwear.
Okay, so I had to look this up. I looked this up a while ago when I actually first heard this. Shell toes are sneakers. That's slang term for sneakers. And brogues are a specific style of leather shoe that are extremely kind of... They look almost cowboy-y, you know? It's a very particular style. But yeah,
which of course it's playing off the phrase "hose or bros." Use shell toes or bros.
Brogues, yeah.
Brogues.
And actually, throughout the song, he continually says references to brands like Brogy Seams or 3 Black Stripes, referring to Adidas, kind of things like that.
Yeah, there is some pretty clever wordplay in this album.
Very clever.
Given that he's using basically a completely different kind of vocabulary than typical British hip-hop, kind of leads to some novel rhymes. This is a very novel album overall.
Yeah, quite proper as opposed to the chavvy nature of grime.
Yeah. I mean, he does get a little dirty later in the album.
Well,
but for now, he's just talking about shoes.
That is naughtiness, as he would say, as opposed to chavvy.
As opposed to dirty.
Yeah. This is we'll get to that later. But yeah, it's a great start to the album. It's a bit longer than some of the other songs. Quite a few of the songs are significantly shorter. Just because he gets his thoughts out there on what he wants to do for that one song, and he ends it because he doesn't. That's it. And it's one of the more popular ones. I think it's a great start to kind of draw you in. Because if I had heard one of these other songs first, I feel like I would have not been as drawn to it as I was.
Okay. No, that's I completely agree with that. So would you say...
Sorry, go ahead.
So can you reiterate that point one more time? Sorry, I completely lost my train of thought.
So I was just saying that this one is one of his more popular ones, and it's a bit longer, so it kind of draws you in more. And it's a bit more fully fleshed out, even though the backing is so dang simple.
Yeah. We should mention this album's only, about 40-45 minutes long, but it's got 15 songs.
Somewhere around there, yeah. A lot of them are quite short.
So pretty some succinct bits on here.
Yeah.
There's some more drawn out ones. But yeah, this one's definitely it's a full song.
And I'm excited to hear what you have to say about this album, Cooper, since you actually listen to hip-hop, as opposed to me, who has never really ever listened to hip-hop.
Yeah, coming into this album with listening to, a lot of modern day, especially American-centric hip-hop, this is definitely it's like a through the looking glass type moment. It's like an alternative universe.
Yeah. Well, if you're got your train of thought back and you're actually listening to the podcast now, Cooper, we can move on to track number 2.
Oh, I am sorry. I was looking at the apparently we're having some trouble with our suggestion box.
Yeah.
But yeah, we can move on to track number 2. Ladies Have Friends Who They Hate. So again, another rather jokey subject matter about about him not understanding why women have friends that they don't really particularly like, which I'm not sure what that has to do with kind of the British theme going on here.
I I'm not sure every song completely deals with the British theme. Some of it is just Mr. B being Mr. B, and some of it is chap hop.
Chap hop. Also, is my are my vocals sounding all right to you right now?
No, you're fine. It's just Jonah being Jonah.
Okay, but yeah. So, and this percussion's also a little bit interesting. I'm not gonna say it's more fully formed, but it's got a very drummer boy-esque vibe to it.
Mm-hmm.
Almost like a kind of an army march, or like a Civil War era army march vibe.
Which is a bit odd given the topic.
Which, yeah, some of the topics seem a little bit scattershot.
Yeah,
not gonna lie, but I guess it's an album that isn't taking itself too seriously.
exactly.
So it's kind of more of the aesthetic than the topic itself.
The big thing I noticed with this one is he doesn't always actually rhyme, but he does it often enough that it makes you think that he does. There's often where he'll say a verse, or he'll say a line, and then the next line will have a word at the end that he rhymes later, but the sandwich of the first rhyming line doesn't rhyme at all. I guess it'd get a bit too much if he was rhyming all the time, but it doesn't feel unnatural the way he's I'm ignorant to the ways of hip hop, so that might be the norm, at least in the older.
Not particularly, because he kind of is melding. It's pretty unique. I'm glad you brought it up now. He kind of melds both typical rap rhyming structure, A B A B, that kind of thing, or A A B B. But he also kind of like dips in and out of spoken word, which typically you pick up pretty quickly in usual hip hop because someone's rap style is usually rather clear cut between them and their like speaking style, right? But here, him kind of putting on this accent kind of blurs the line between his kind of speaking voice or his rapping style and his kind of just sing talking style.
That's a really good point, actually, because that really comes into effect in a much later song, Rude Britannia, where he slips, he talks, and the beat starts, and he's just immediately rapping, and there's no swap there. I didn't even notice that. I'm very glad that you have a hip hop background.
Yeah, it's actually it's pretty unique in terms of just the hip hop styling, because of course spoken words been around forever, but the way it kind of you have trouble kind of figuring out when and where it starts due to this persona is something that kind of keeps you on your toes at the album, which I like.
Yeah. But this one is much more simple than the first one, as we were saying before.
Instrumentation wise, right?
Yeah. Well, also just length, and I felt like the rhymes were. I'm gonna swap between raps and rhymes throughout this whole thing because it doesn't feel right saying rapping.
Yeah. Not in the traditional sense, though.
Yeah. The rhymes just felt a little bit more subdued than the previous song, which isn't a bad thing. I liked his use of defenestrate, which is to throw someone out of a window.
Yeah, you definitely don't hear that often in any medium.
I don't know. I hear that one quite a lot just because it's the one that everybody knows online. It's like, oh, did you know it's to throw somebody out a window? People like to show off their knowledge.
Is that a word people say a lot?
I mean, I see it in memes quite a few times. But,
oh, well. I guess I'm not looking at the right memes. But, yeah, it does have a couple interesting things instrumentation-wise. It's got, like, little bells tinkling in the background.
Mm-hmm.
Usually when bass comes in during this album, it's more of the akin to a standing bass. Like, is it a cello? Is that what they're called?
No, it's just an upright bass. It's called a bass.
Just an upright bass?
Yeah. Yeah,
so it's so it has that bass, but instead of being more of a synth electronic type bass, this is a string bass, which is adds a bit of flavor to the backing, which I like. It gives a kind of laid back, unique feel to it.
Yeah, and he also makes use of vocal layering quite a bit in this one, which adds a lot where the backing track is extremely simple and could get boring if he doesn't change things up.
Yeah. And so this one's it's a cute little ditty.
Yeah.
There's a lot of cute little ditties in this album.
Yeah. And throughout the whole of this album, it's thankfully he enunciates extremely clearly, except for one later on, since the focus is so heavily on the lyrics.
He kind of has to.
Yeah. And especially with the accent, if you will. I hope it's an accent. I hope he doesn't actually sound like that. That kind of suck.
I mean, he is British, Jim Burke.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously, British people don't talk like this guy talks.
Well, some might still.
I imagine a rare few. So it's like a British person doing a British accent. Almost.
Yeah. British person doing a Victorian accent, almost.
Kind of like when I'm American, but if I do an American accent, I'm talking like this all of a sudden.
Well, that's a Southern accent, though.
Oh yeah, but this is a very specific type of subsection of British accent, right?
True. Jump into track number 3 then, Coop, if you're ready.
Yeah, let's do it.
I've no wish to keep it real. This one is this is got some good chapping at the start. It has more of a song feel overall, I would say. It's because what you might know this, Cooper. What's the difference between do you still call it a song if you're mainly rapping, or is it called something else?
Yeah, it's a song.
I feel like it's called a track then. I don't know.
I mean, tracks used pretty interchangeably. I mean, a lot of hip hop, especially nowadays, has some sort of melodic element to it, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it just be the kind of supporting beat, or very typically a guest vocalist during the choruses. Or if the hip hop artist is talented or not talented enough, they'll sing on their own chorus, which can have a very wide range of detriments and advantages.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, this one definitely has a lot more of a singing vocal element to it, apart from just the typical lyricism that we've seen so far. And this one also starts the fine tradition that pops up a couple times in this album of him kind of ratting on the hip-hop industry as a whole.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. This is why I thought you would like this album.
He seems to have a bit of a beef with the industry, which he brings up the good points here about basically the theme of this song is that he doesn't want to keep it real because he finds it boring. He'd rather be silly, which I see his point there. I'm not completely on board with him being like kind of like dismissing the realness of the hip hop industry overall. Not to say that there's room for complaint there, but it's kind of like an outsider point again, being like, I don't like that.
Yeah, I think the point he's trying to make with it though is that a lot of them trying to sound the same. Because the chorus is, I've no wish to keep it real because keeping it real is such a bore. If keeping it real makes me sound like you, then what would I want to keep it real for? It's saying, why must everyone sound the same?
But I don't even think that's true though.
I know, industry. But that is.
I mean, if you're comparing it on like the difference between him and the typical hip hop artist, I mean, yeah, I can see that. I mean, I don't necessarily disagree with the message. He brings it up a couple times on the album. It gets to the point where I'm like, it threads the line between like kind of parody and like kind of sarcasm to a little bit whiny that he's an industry outsider.
I didn't get to that point, but then again, I'm not in it. I think we'll see what your thought is on number 4 when we get there, but you might have taken number 4 the wrong way. The big one I liked in this is he shows off his speed skills a little bit, or at least he gets quite a bit faster in the chorus.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed that. It sounds really nice when the British accent goes extremely fast. I don't know why.
Honestly, this chorus may be like the widest chorus ever in a hip hop song.
Yeah.
The stacked vocals paired with the ukulele and like the clapping and like kind of nursery rhyme singing.
Yeah.
It was a bit much even for me.
Yeah, it's like it's out there. Yeah, we already talked about the industry stuff, but he brings the trombone back, which happens a lot throughout this album. I feel like he knows how to play trombone, or somebody else he knows how to play trombone.
He's like, shoot, there's 45 seconds left on the song. We better throw in the trombone.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds good, so I'm not going to complain.
Oh, no, it doesn't detract from it. It's just an obvious sound that he prefers. And moving on from that, we can move on to his next hip-hop industry is bad song called track number 4, Hip Hop Was to Blame After All. He sings a bit more on this track as well, which his singing is actually pretty good
especially
overall.
with the accent, yeah.
You'd think it'd be a little bit grating, but I think it's actually there's points on this album where it's very enjoyable. And this one also has a pretty bare bones instrumentation.
Yeah.
Just kind of like the honky tonk piano with some standing bass going on in the background. Yeah, and this one is him complaining about the hip hop industry again.
Well, this one, I'm not sure if you picked it up. The whole thing is sarcastic. That hip hop is not to blame. He's blaming the 3 companies that control everything. So he's making fun of people.
So they're saying like hip hop's like he's saying like hip hop's like a scapegoat.
Exactly. The whole point of the song is he's making fun of people who say hip hop's to blame, because he's like, oh, they made that decision all by themselves, when really it was people wanting to make money, selling it off and using it as a scapegoat.
Well, I think it's a little half and half, because obviously he's not. I think there's points in the song where he mentions about how like hip hop's now a billion-dollar industry, right? And that it's not really about like coming where you come from, kind of like the falseness that kind of comes with like making it big, right? It's hard to rap about the ghetto whenever you're a millionaire.
I see where you're coming from with that, but I had to pull up the lyrics for you because I want to make sure I get this right.
Oh yeah, go for it.
When he's introducing, he's like explaining where hip hop came from and all that jazz. Then it gets to, then a shiny suit thought, wait a minute, there just might be something in it, packed it, sold it, let it rot, blamed it for society's lot. So I guess you're right, it's kind of going half and half, but mainly he's bringing like, hip hop's not to blame, it's the people trying to sell it to you that are to blame.
Which is a good point. I mean, the industrialization, I guess is the word, of hip hop is definitely a contentious issue with people kind of see it as kind of like cultural gentrification, right? Of like, a lot of hip hop comes from very personal places, based on like race and poverty. So whenever a company slaps a dollar sign on that and sells it to the mass public, things get a little bit messy. So he does make a good point there. At least I'm glad it wasn't just hip hop is to blame after all. He wasn't playing completely straight.
I mean, the most telling line is hip hop's a $40 billion industry, so now all the ghettos live in prosperity, which is obviously false.
Yeah.
So he's being like, well, hip hop's not to blame. It's the people that are making a crap load of money off of it that are to blame. The producers and all that jazz. So not as bad as you thought it was.
I guess so. It's a little more half.
Yeah, because the last line is, yes, it's all hip hop's fault, you see, not the 3 companies that decide what you hear and see.
But they don't have control over Spotify's Discover Weekly.
Exactly.
The freedom fighter.
I'm sure Spotify is part of the whole network or something.
I mean,
the man.
But it actually does a pretty good job of having like some more obscure music.
Yeah, I mean, it recommended me this, and you looked it up. It had something like 70,000 monthly listens.
Oh yeah, this is a pretty deep sleeper. Yeah. So we can move on to track number 5, Pop Song.
Ooh, this one grew and grew on me the more I listened to this album, man.
I also very much enjoyed the song as well. This is I'd say and you could disagree with me if you want, but I say this is the first song on the album that really has like a real interesting instrumentation going on in the background.
Yeah, probably.
Or it's got this kind of slightly I'm not sure what the phrase is for whatever that that kind of general filter for like old timey music where it's kind of crackling and fuzzy like it's coming out of an old radio.
I was thinking more of a vinyl sound.
Yeah, kind of I guess a very there's a physicality to it.
Yeah.
He kind of pairs that with some backing brass along with a kind of clicking I guess woodblock sound.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure how to categorize it, but definitely adds to a pretty recognizable sound right off the bat. And of course, the Farty synth kind of sinks in slowly to build up the song, which I like.
Yeah. The thing I love about this one most is that bottle popping noise. Ooh.
Yeah.
It's so good, and it repeats a lot, but it sounds so nice. So the whole song is basically about, for those of you that haven't listened to it, listing the sizes of champagne that you can get. And I think it's very old British terms because a lot of these...
I have no idea what he's talking about in terms.
Some of it's probably in French, just the names, it sounds that way. But it's basically they say the size, and then he sings a little line about it, and it's just very kind of feel good and nice. This one really meshes into the next song too. But did you notice there's that bit of electronica before the outro that kind of feels out of place? But just a little bit. There was a previous which one was it? I don't think I actually mentioned it.
No. I remember that where kind of
Ladies Have Friends Who They Hate had the electronica, but this one has it, but it doesn't feel out of place just because how out of place it was in the previous song.
No, it did have that, but I think just because the song's so kind of quirky to begin with, I didn't really think too much of it, especially since it kind of comes at the very tail end of the song. It leads into the next one.
Yeah. There's quite the outro in this one, though. It's pretty long compared to other songs.
Yeah, it's not even that long a song. It's like 2.5 minutes. But I think it just ran out of old-timey liquors to list off.
Yeah. And it like we were saying before, it meshes extremely well with song number 6, if you're ready to merge, or at least it kind of transitions
smoothly into
it uses the last like 45 seconds of pop song to transition to track number 6, Grammar Song.
Another song. And this one I thoroughly enjoy the instrumentation because it's all mouth sounds. It's a cappella instrumentation
and beatboxing.
Pretty much beatboxing. Where it's I guess it kind of goes since like grammar is a spoken thing, a spoken element. It's all spoken instrumentation. It's beatboxing, and the rhymes are really solid on this one as well. Where he's pretty much talking about how if you want to impress women, have good grammar.
Yeah,
which is a pretty hilarious topic.
As he puts it, to improve your chances on the whole. Don't know if he was speaking with a WH or an H there. But...
We'll let you decide.
Yeah. But again, this one uses some good layering since it's very simple. The acapella and beatboxing in the background is nice, but it's extremely repetitive because the focus is on the lyrics. And it uses that vocal layering again in the main line extremely well to draw focus to certain words. So like when he says grammar at the start, that's layered to draw attention to it, and then improve your chances on the whole. Whole is layered to draw attention to that one again, and it's just very nicely laid out and thought out, and it's a good song.
It's like an onion.
Yeah, it's like a cake, an ogre.
It likes cake. But yeah, and it's pretty short and sweet overall. Only about 2 minutes. Doesn't overstay its welcome.
Yeah.
Which a lot of these songs are pretty to the point.
especially the next one if you're ready to jump to that.
Oh yeah, next one. In a Club, track number 7, which is this one's basically more of a skit than a song.
Yeah.
Where it's you'll notice a theme of this album of Mr. B not particularly liking modern music or modern hip hop, which is all fine and dandy. Not exactly a unique thought. He's not exactly the first person to be like, "Man, music nowadays is bad." But this song's kind of a little 1-minute song that's dedicated to him having a nightmare that he's performing at a club.
Well, I think it was a nightmare of him performing a song that would be approved by a major record label.
Right. The big bad industry.
Yeah. So it's basically him repeating, "I'm in a club," a lot.
Over an intentionally annoying club beat with crooning auto-tune singing going on in the background. It's basically a song that's made to be annoying.
Yeah.
He doesn't
Although
like club.
this was, when we were talking last week, this was the song that had been stuck in my head a couple of times.
I guess club music's supposed to be catchy, but
the auto-tuning of him singing in the British accent just sounds so odd. I love it. I don't know why.
I do not love it. It is.
It's just fun. I like it. It's a fun song, especially the comment, "and the drinks are expensive."
That is true. Club drinks are expensive. It's intentionally annoying, but it's still annoying.
Yeah, I mean, I don't find it terribly annoying. I don't skip it, but
it's also only like a minute long.
Yeah,
so
yeah. If it was any longer, it would be annoying.
It gets its point across.
And the whole skit ends with him waking up from the nightmare.
Oh yeah, it's a nightmare.
And being greeted by his butler, Carl Schulten, which is such a good name.
Carl Schulten.
Who retrieves his whiskey for him as soon as he wakes up.
He does drink a lot on this album. There's a running theme.
Casual
alcoholism was a little more popular back in the day.
Well, to take a brief history aside, I've always been a big history buff, which is to say I was too lazy to pursue an actual history degree. Alcoholism was a huge thing in the past, just due to beer being the main drink of choice. A lot of, I can't speak for Britain, but in America you would have a barrel by the door full of beer, and as you came in, you'd scoop some up and drink. Now this was when beer was 1 or 2% maximum. But then, however, it reached the point where we figured out how to make higher concentrations, i.e. whiskey, brandy, vodka. Well, vodka was kind of introduced later.
AKA the good stuff.
Exactly. And then people didn't change their consumption habits. So they would have a cup of whiskey with breakfast, a cup of whiskey with lunch, a cup of whiskey in the afternoon, and one before dinner. And jumping from 1% beer to whiskey is
that's gonna wake you up.
Yeah. Now that this was more so for America, I can't say this is exactly what happened in Britain as well, but that is what led to our prohibition, was the extreme alcohol consumption.
Yeah, that was I didn't realize that.
Yeah, that's a History Corner with Sam. If you're interested in hearing more about prohibition, Ken Burns has a great documentary on Netflix about it.
Oh, well, little knowledge with your music. I like that. But
better than Cooper's Roth RIA corner.
Taxes are important.
Oh, sorry, Tax Time with Cooper. That's what we called it.
Economics. I have to put my minor to use somehow.
You don't have
moving
it yet.
On to. I'm close to it. Moving on to track number 8, Brit School.
Now,
Brit School.
This one is another longer one, and it has way more of a lead-in than the other tracks. This one is much more of a kind of a unit, a song, kind of cohesive together. It feels like a fully fledged out idea as opposed to the little 1 minute and 2 minute songs we've been having up to this point. It's kind of more on par with Shell Toes or Brogues.
Yeah, it's definitely a complete song. And so there's kind of in between all these kind of more idea songs, little skits.
Yeah. It's got way more of a driving beat to it that is not really displayed in other tracks. The beat is the main focus at the beginning, and it kind of comes back every once in a while throughout the song. And the flow is so good, and his singing as well is great.
I don't like the singing on this particular song. There's two types of singing he does on this album. The kind of more, I guess, impassioned singing that he has in the later half of the album, especially. And then the kind of singing on like Keep It Real and on this song.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot more sing-songy, right?
Yeah, that's good point.
Which is,
I like it.
It's a certain type of energy that kind of grates against me. Like I get the aesthetic he's going for. I just don't care for it that much. Especially when it's paired with a ukulele like this. It's a bit. I do like it. There's a point where I specifically mention it later in the album where I like it. But whenever it's paired with that type of singing, I don't know. It's a bit too.
I think you just don't like this type of singing.
Stereotypical. I don't think so.
I really enjoy it personally, but.
Also, I'm not quite sure what the. I was trying to look up lyrics for the songs, but I couldn't find them.
Yeah, so thankfully I've listened to this enough that I can transcribe the lyrics.
Oh, well, there we go.
To it for about 2 weeks. So this one is about the Brit School, which I had to look it up. It's in Croydon, England, and it's basically a fine arts academy on a very large scale. Tom Holland actually went there. That's where he received his acting training. He probably went there for Broadway because he was a Billy Elliot. Is that what the musical was called?
I think Billy Elliot was it.
Yeah.
Billie Eilish. Yeah,
no, not Billie Eilish.
Oh.
Malia's gonna slap you next time she sees you. But yeah, it's basically this really prestigious acting performance school. And it's basically him again complaining about modern music. There's a bit about him complaining about Phil Collins retired and was upset that they weren't playing the same kind of music, so he started the music section of the Brit School, and he lists. The second half of this album is extremely difficult to understand, or the second half of this song is extremely difficult to understand, just because there's so many British pop culture references from 2013 when this album came out. So it's like I have no idea who most of these people are, but it's basically him complaining that it's not pop music if it's being taught in a classroom. Like one of the lines is they go in raw talent, come out half baked, which I thought was I like that wordplay. But it's basically him saying it's not what should be being taught at that school. Their monopoly was under attack. So it's got a good beat and it tells a story again. But as I was saying, the second half, I've listened to it a ton of times, but I cannot understand.
I was very hard to.
It's just a bunch of names being thrown at me, and it's like I don't know who any of these people are.
They're all British names.
Yeah.
Yeah. So okay, I kind of got that from the first half, with them being kind of against the standardization of the music industry.
Yeah.
Which has a point. I've always rubbed a little bit the wrong way whenever someone's like, back in the old times, that's when music was real. It's even as far back in the 60s, right? Back in British music, boy bands were manufactured.
Now I'm going to counter here, Cooper, with the album we recently listened to, Panic at the Disco.
Yes.
Whatever that one was. Every song followed the exact same formula.
Oh yeah, I'm not saying that it's that's not still happening today. It certainly is. I'm just saying it's been happening for a long time.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a tit for tat because there's some, artists that come out of the industry that can produce pretty unique stuff with its resources. So I don't think it's necessarily a one-to-one, which I doubt Mr. B would claim either.
Yeah.
It's just that whenever he's complaining about it, strikes me as an outsider that's a little bit upset about the industry looking in.
Yeah, this one certainly feels a bit that way, but it also feels jokey.
Yeah, I mean, it obviously never takes it too seriously.
Yeah.
Like he does in the next song, track number 9, Toast.
Okay, I cannot transcribe this one. I cannot understand. What is it? There's the first line. I don't know what's being said. Do you understand what's being said?
I could not tell you. Basically, the concept of this song is that Mr. V woke up from a dream with a melody in his head, and then he turned over and woke up his wife in the middle of the night, and then he wrote down the first thing she said, which is just complete nonsense babble, which he then sings over this cute little melody.
So it's you waspa. It sounds like you waspa Ted, which I don't know what that means. It's probably something else. But then the second line is in the South Pole, making records instead of making toast. But the way he says records is records. There's a space. So I imagine the first line is the same way, but I cannot for the life of me figure out what the heck is being said.
Which I guess is the point. It's supposed to be literal, just babble talk.
Maybe, I don't know, but it drives me crazy. And I was looking up the lyrics, and only like two of the songs on this album have the lyrics typed out onto that lyric website that's super popular.
Genius, I'm guessing.
Maybe, I'm not sure, but it's who knows what's being said? I sure don't.
It's a mystery to us all.
But this is the one that has Bonce in it when he's introducing the song. Great word.
Which is it's a cute little piano ditty.
And I will say, while the lyrics leave a lot to be desired, the instrumentation in this one is really good. Constantly building over time. Just always every 30 seconds something else comes in. And it gets to the point where it kind of feels like a Beatles song. Near the end. I'm thinking Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band near the end.
Okay, yeah, it's definitely got like that kind of big band feel as the brass comes in.
And the thing that wins me over in this song is it pulls in that again, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, the distorted kind of far away shouting voice just repeating the lyrics.
I like to call that the Yellow Submarine effect.
Yes, exactly. See, you got the same.
I did get that from there. So
and that just completely wins me over every time. I think because the Beatles use it so expertly that I've never had a bad experience with it, so it immediately makes me like it.
It's like that Pavlov effect.
Exactly.
Triggers your little happy thoughts.
Also, he still had the British accent, so my brain was like, "Yeah, this sounds right."
British screaming? Yeah, the Beatles.
yeah, Beatles. Yeah. So this is as far away from the Beatles as you could get, probably, but just that I really got that vibe at the end of the song.
Yeah, it has some. This is probably the few songs on this album where it's like more about the instrumentation than about the actual vocals.
Mm-hmm. And
I'd say
it's very well done, I think.
Yeah, and it makes good use of it.
Jumping to track number 10, then we're jumping to the naughty side of this album, Rude Britannia.
This is where he embraces his raw sexual British energy, which is about as gross as it sounds. This is probably the funniest song in the album.
Yeah.
I laughed the most at this one, just because it's basically about a lady comes to Mr. B's door to solicit him, and he says he'll be with her after reading the racing pages.
So the whole thing is she comes in and he's immediately like ready to go. It's got a super funky bass beat on it, which really kind of gives it that something's going on feel, even if you can't understand what he's saying. But the enunciation is extremely clear, as we said before, so you can understand. What is it? So much of the wordplay in this one is great though, because this one really portrays the old English. Come in, you bonny thing, you. Who says that? It's
very old timey banter.
This one is extremely Victorian. Yeah.
Which is hilarious because it's Victorian, but it's also kind of explicit about it. So
yeah.
It's very clashes with those ideals, which it just leads to it being pretty funny.
You've rather quenched my thirst and stiffened my starch. I love that line.
It's got some pretty good lines.
Yeah, it's great. So basically, the whole this one is, again, I call them story songs. So this lady comes over, right, and he's getting ready. He's half the mind to pounce on you now, as they're bouncing around under your dress, blah blah blah. And as he goes to relieve her of her clothing, he notices the newspaper on the doormat. And as soon as he sees that, the only thing he can think is, crap, I didn't read the paper today.
So he has to put it off to read the racing pages.
Exactly. Rude Britannia. My favorite lines in this one was as he was reading the cricket news, and it was she dropped her dress and he balked the 2 catches.
So
just very clever juxtaposition throughout, and it's great writing in this song.
This is some clever writing on it.
Yeah.
And it ends with a pretty sexy trumpet solo. And as a trumpet player myself, I always give that a thumbs up.
Yeah, I really enjoy in the middle when the trombone comes in again. But this time some organ comes in underneath, which is very nice, and then continues throughout the rest of the song until the end.
Yeah, and it's overall just a pretty good song. This is definitely the funniest one. I think that's where his wordplay comes out the most.
And kind of tops it off with this whole reading the paper thing with this tale of romance has no happy ending, as he proceeds to brag about how he can go on for hours, and then lands on her shin, pinches her skin.
What, the phrase is, "Oh no, I'm bending."
Yeah, no, oh no, it's bending.
So a good song.
Very, very funny, yeah.
And then skipping along to the next sexual theme song, track number 11. It doesn't.
You copied this over wrong. It doesn't pay
to turn up late to an orgy.
No.
Which, exactly as the song applies. A little short, pretty short one. So basically, he's playing a song to an old lady who wants to hear some music, and this is the one he comes up with.
So my first question, I thought, was when this happens is because the doors it starts with Carl Shelton answering the door again for Lady Fanshawe. The names in this are just so over the top.
Extended universe.
Yeah. And this lady sounds pretty old, not to be mean to her at all, but she sounds old, like pretty
ancient.
Old. And my first question I wondered was, I wonder if she actually ever heard the finished song, and who was she? Like, did he just get his grandma to record something for him, or does one of their friends do a very good old lady impression or something? I don't know.
I like to think that one.
But it starts off with this really beautiful piano, just kind of general piano music, and then it kind of jumps into, I don't know how to describe it, a jaunty kind of.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically only piano as instrumentation.
Well, yeah, but I'm saying because there's the introduction bit where he's not singing at all, and it's just very beautiful piano playing, and then he jumps into the kind of do 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 do. What do you?
I'd say jaunty. That's
jaunty,
probably
yeah.
It's a jaunt.
Extremely drawn out vowels in this song as well.
Yeah, he really goes for the full British accent on this one.
Yeah.
Overall.
And when I actually listened to this album, I think I was mowing at the time, and it was my first time listening. So I wasn't looking at the song names. So it starts off, and it's, where are my gloves? I swear I left them in the hall on the floor. Where are my keys? Or where's my car? Where's my wife? I swear I left her at the table. I should look for her, but I fear I shan't be able. And then there's a break, and then it immediately jumps into where's that double-ended dildo?
Which is, yeah, they'll definitely.
It
if you don't see the title, you're
yeah.
like, all right, it's one of these more raw sexual.
It took me by because it was very normal up until that point. I was like, okay, looking for things.
The title does play its hand a little early.
Yeah.
Pretty much another little funny skit.
Yeah, another tiny. It's very short.
Yeah, and then guess going on from there, go to track number 12, which is Reasons to Be Unsuccessful, Part 1. There is no Part 2. Spoilers.
Yes.
But yeah, this is starts a new theme on the album, which is basically, I guess he enjoys being lazy.
Yes.
Is
This is part Act 3, if you will, if we're following the Green Day order.
the Green Day structure, which who shouldn't?
But the beat is really good on this one again, but something about the flow just feels a little bit off. I don't know if you noticed that at all, Coop.
I did a little bit. I think it's just because he's rapping over a very tumultuous beat. It's very dissonant, where it's jumping back and forth. It actually, of all things, kind of reminds me a little bit of you probably have to listen to him, Sam, since you're not too big into hip hop. But there's an artist known as Danny Brown that's kind of infamous for having these very quirky and pretty much hard to ride on beats. They're difficult to rap over, just given how they're constructed. Which is kind of what?
Sorry, I was just maybe that's what it was then.
Because it's a very it's interesting beat with these kind of squeaky, squawky woodwinds and synth going on in the background. But I think just because it was so unique and kind of tumultuous, he was having a little bit of trouble maybe rapping over it.
Yeah.
As opposed to like some of the simpler beats that were going on, which is not to say anything against his abilities. Even it's difficult for the best of them to keep on that whenever you have such a kind of interesting time rhythm going on.
Yeah, and I think my opinion of this one is a bit colored by the chorus, where he rhymes unsuccessful with unsuccessful. Not a huge fan of that. I really don't like when artists rhyme words with themselves.
Yeah, it's not the best lyrics. They're pretty standard overall. Especially considering some of the more interesting wordplay he's had up to the point.
Yeah. I really do like it about 2:15 where the beat drops out behind it while he's still going. That kind of gives it a bit more force to what he's saying.
And then it blasts back in. Yeah. He does also say the word boy at the end, so that's pretty funny.
Yeah, the ending was kind of odd. Is that normal of hip-hop tracks where he's kind of speaking over the end of the track? It just felt weird.
Nowadays, not as much. Old school hip-hop, it was fairly common. They kind of have a quote-unquote outro, right? Which is what he's referencing here, where it's like, I think he actually literally says something along the lines of like, now I'm speaking over the outro of the song, because that's what you're supposed to do. Which, pretty on the nose, but I think it's funny because listening to some like mid-90s hip-hop, they do that quite often.
Okay.
I'm trying to think of an example. You know the Cha-Cha Slide?
Yeah.
Remember how like the last minute of that song is just the guy talking about whatever?
Not really, because I avoid that song as much as I can.
God, have you never been to a white person wedding?
Yeah, it's been a long time.
Yeah, so that's kind of what he's poking fun at. But yeah, pretty standard song overall. Nothing too interesting here besides the instrumentation.
Yeah.
And then if that's all you have to say on that, we can move on to track number 13, The Corinthians. So I'm not sure what this track was about.
So I can fill you in here.
Here, let me know.
So this one is a bit of a black sheep, I feel like, because there's only really the chorus, and then the lines that are not the chorus are names.
What were the names of?
So this is the Corinthians is a group of amateur rappers / chap hoppers. So it's kind of just a group of amateur artists. He's
doing his call out song.
Yeah. The sampling is good, but it's just it doesn't really mesh with the rest of the album. It kind of feels out of place. But I understand why he wanted to kind of call out maybe some of his friends that have helped him with this. And I mean, it's his third album, but I don't know. Is that a normal thing to do in hip hop?
I mean, not to dedicate a whole song, typically.
Hmm.
Typically, that's actually what the outro is for,
Oh, okay.
They'll kind of, throw out a name or two, talk about, give some cred. That or like they kind of tack it on at the beginning. Not typically a whole song dedicated to it, but it's not unheard of.
Yeah.
Plus,
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh yeah, I'm just saying. Plus, I even if it's literally him just naming names, I do kind of like the low key song. It has a bit of an ethereal feel to it. It's very laid back. He does a little bit of crooning on it, too, which I think meshes very well here in this more chill environment.
Yeah. My only complaint with this is he doesn't say amateur the way I wanted him to.
What, amateur?
Yeah, exactly. And I actually had to go to Google to figure out what the other ways to say it were. I clicked the little sound button. Do you want to know what the way Google says amateur sounds like?
What do they say?
Amateur.
No.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, I've literally never heard
I don't think anyone says it
ever
amateur.
Say it that way. I've heard amateur and amateur, but not amateur. Who says amateur?
It sounds like, hey Sam, can you pass me the amateur? Yeah, it's right here.
It sounds very southern.
Yeah, I don't think. I'm not sure if that's the way that's pronounced.
Yeah. So, but
look, Google's not going to hit.
Is he doesn't say amateur.
Look, Google's not going to be patting 1,000.
Yeah.
So
track number 14 then. The Neglect of My Duties.
Okay, so I was saying earlier how I think the ukulele is used well in this album, and this is the example here, where I think it's a much better effect, just because I think the way he's singing over it kind of is more constructive than destructive, like the last songs were. And also, it's another song about him being lazy.
Yeah.
To keep with the theme.
Yeah. Like you were saying, the ukulele is very nice, especially since it's kind of the only thing aside from a little bit of hi-hat. It keeps it fresh this late in the album.
Yeah, and of course, it's got a good use of the standing bass, and the percussion kind of sneaks in there, too.
Yeah.
I'd say it's another very low-key song.
Yeah.
But also it carries along very well, especially with that ukulele. It's actually pretty intricate strumming at some points, which I think helps add to the song. I really do enjoy it, how it manages to keep this kind of laid back energy, which makes sense given he's talking about neglecting his duties intentionally.
Yeah. This one, I don't know. I enjoy it, like you're saying, but it just doesn't quite do it for me. It just doesn't. I don't feel like it brings much to the album. It feels kind of like a bit of a filler. But then again, the style kind of goes along with the lyrics, and there's an argument to be made for it there, I guess.
I think it adds to the album.
Yeah.
When I think, especially because it kind of rides the energy from Corinthians. And if you went into like another like silly, keep it real type song, I think it kind of break the flow right before hitting the last song of the album.
That's a good point. Kind of gears you back up for the
ending of the album. I just think it very much takes advantage of its instrumentation and its singing to actually meld together. I think the best on this album, which makes me quite like this song.
Jump into track number 15 then, if you're ready.
Yeah, let's do it.
Brush Tweed in the Hour of Chaos.
Brush Tweed in the Hour of Chaos.
So this one again is a story song, and I believe it's referencing past, like a continuation of past events. Let me double check this before I.
Yeah, because it kind of, what I got from it was like he was being invited to be indicted by the court, but then he gets chased off by the police because he like messed with them in the past.
Yeah.
So I didn't quite get. It's like kind of what's the phrase when they drop you in the middle of a story?
I'm not sure what the phrase for that.
But yeah, it's just more of a medium to like rap over. Plus, I have to say this song probably has like the stickiest chorus in the album. It's a catchy chorus, and those stacked layered vocals are just silky smooth.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, the album. You said this was his third studio album, right?
I believe so. Third or fourth.
It is fourth. You dirty rotten liar.
I have been
album
had.
number 1 was Flattery Not Included. Album 2, I Say. So album 1 was 2008. I Say 2010. The Tweed album 2013, and then this Can't Stop Shan't Stop 2013.
Yes, yeah, okay. So it is the fourth album.
Yeah.
My B.
Ha. I get it. But I imagine this is a continuation of the story from the Tweed album. Since one of the lines is you knocked a Bobby's hat off 1 year prior on this day. That sounds pretty. Hey,
Yeah,
you
like
remember
it
in the
was
last
reference-
song?
Little hint, nudge, nudge.
Yeah.
It's in medias res.
Yeah.
That's the phrase.
Never heard that.
Yeah, we used it in English class once.
Ooh.
But I think it's an appropriately grand kind of ending for an album.
Yeah, the song is a bit odd, but I feel like the second half of the song is really dedicated to ending the album.
Oh yeah, it wraps it up. It definitely is an ending song.
Mm-hmm.
Where I think it kind of builds up. Like I said, the chorus very sicky.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of has a grand sound to it as everything kind of gets thrown in. You get the piano, you get the bass coming in.
The
vocals
Oompa
get
Loompa,
more
stick it
stacked
in
and
your
stacked.
Joompa.
The what?
The line Oompa Loompa, stick it in your Joompa.
Oompa Loompa?
Did you not hear that line?
I don't think I caught that line.
It's near the end. You're gonna have to go back and it's pretty loud. I mean, it's not. He's singing along with the chorus there, so.
I guess I just didn't pick up the Britishness of it. But and it does end, like you said, on a interesting note of like, it does end on and I'm always a bit of a stickler for this, but I don't like it when albums end on applause because it seems a little like self-aggrandizing. But it does also then ride the noises out on I think seagull noises for 30 seconds as everything kind of winds down. I'm not sure why seagulls, but
seagulls are extremely common in Britain.
Are they?
Well, it's an island nation, so.
I always assumed they were far enough north that they weren't as common, but
no. Well, I mean it's what is it? I mean, Europe is on a similar latitude to much of Canada, but because of the Gulf Stream, it's much warmer. So
I learned so much this stream.
Yeah, this is and Matt might be a little nettled with this because we might end up going longer than the last podcast. But that's because
we started a little late. So.
No, Cooper, I'm looking at the live timer, and we are currently at hour and 13 minutes.
Wow!
And last week we were hour 20.
Oh, we had better wrap this up then.
Yeah, I think it's because we've been talking about history and we've been talking about the hip hop industry. So we've been talking about much more than just the songs.
Far beyond it.
Yeah.
But so that's the end of the album.
Yeah, and those strings wrapping this whole thing up, as you kind of said, great way to end. And the clapping is a little bit cheesy, but I liked it. It felt like he was kind of ending a stage show, you know?
Yeah, it did kind of have a stage play type aesthetic to it.
So you want to do your favorite and least favorite songs then?
I will. For my favorites, I kind of have it as a bit of a tie between I really liked Grammar Song.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was a good example of Mr. B's lyricism. Was in full force, making some clever puns, good use of the British vernacular, as well as interesting, a cappella type beatbox percussion. I thought worked really well with his style.
Mm-hmm.
And then also I'd say The Neglect of My Duty. Like I said, I really appreciated singing on this song, as well as it mixed with the ukulele and the bass and the percussion in the back, kind of the general more low-key vibe that it carries. And while maybe a little bit clashing with the rest of the album, I by itself, I appreciate it. In terms of my least favorite album or least favorite song, I'd probably have to say, probably not to your surprise, but I've No Wish to Keep It Real. It's just so corny.
It's such a fun song though, Cooper.
It's so corny, and I'm like, okay, you're picking and prodding at the rap industry. I get it. uh, it's a little much for me. I think it goes too far into the goofy direction.
Choosing a favorite's going to be a bit hard because a lot of them I listen to individually, but in different moods because it kind of jumps all over the place. Probably either pop song, Brit School, or Rude Britannia. Those are all kind of good standalone songs. And then least favorite, maybe Reasons to Be Unsuccessful. It's good, but it just kind of didn't vibe with me well enough. Because the other one, I can forgive the silliness, like it's a comedy album, you know.
Right.
But that one just kind of, for the lyricism that he displayed previously and prior or after it as well, it just kind of leaves some to be desired, and especially the rhyming unsuccessful with unsuccessful. Come on, man. You're speaking in an old English.
You're not terribly impressed by that.
You used bonce in a song, but you rhymed unsuccessful with unsuccessful. Come on. So, yeah, dude, I'll go ahead and introduce the rating system then, because I think you've done it quite a few times previously.
Yeah, go for it.
So
I'd like to learn about it.
At Audio Shop, if you've listened to us before, you're probably ripping your eardrums out at this moment because you hear this literally every week, or almost every week. We really like cars here. We both know.
I love them.
Yeah, that
they used to call me four-wheel Johnny back in high school.
Yep. Not One Punch Pratt. So
no, that's my other nickname.
we decided to build a rating system around cars. So 5 out of 5, top of the barrel, is showroom. Basically, it's brand new. It's showroom, you know. All you
good stuff.
GTA 5 players out there, you break into the dealership, you steal a brand new car, and immediately crashed into a pylon on the side of the bridge. And then we have 1 out of 5, which is scrapyard, which is basically scraping the bottom of the barrel. Nobody wants it, throw it away.
This is the old PT Cruiser that's broken down in the Cheesecake Factory parking lot. Nobody wants it.
It's been there for 3 months, but somebody always says that they're going to come pick it up, but they never do. And of course we say high and low on those, kind of give us a bit of wiggle room. And as always, we might say something now where you'd be like, well, didn't you rate something else that was a terrible album higher than that? It is completely arbitrary and based on our mood. So
yeah, it's subjective.
Just take it with a grain of salt. But if we tell you to listen to it, listen to it. So Cooper, why don't you go ahead and start us off then?
Yes, I'll start it off. I think I'm going to have to give this a rating of a fixer-upper, maybe up to a high fixer-upper. This is by no means a bad album. In fact, I thoroughly enjoyed multiple parts of this album. I think it brings something unique to the table. Definitely something I've never heard before. So very a twist on the hip-hop genre. But at the same time, you know, novelty is kind of a double-edged sword, where it's something unique, but I don't really see myself returning to it for any particular reason, which is kind of the fear whenever you make something that's going into parody. So definitely, I'd say check it out. It's worth just experiencing through in terms of just offering something that you may not have heard before and getting a couple laughs out of it and some legitimately good lyricism.
Mm-hmm.
And if you really enjoy it, you might find yourself coming back to it. I probably won't, but I very much appreciate what Mr. B did here. And I think it's worth checking out.
I'm going to give a very similar rating. I'm going to say a very, very low like new. As close to fixer-upper as you can get. If not, you could always say a kind of high fixer-upper. Just for the fact of how many times I end up listening to this album. Recently, this week, I've noticed it was a bit harder to come back and listen to it again just because the novelty had worn off, as Cooper was saying. But I think it's extremely good. Maybe it's because I have no hip-hop background whatsoever, but I really enjoyed the experience. and it was a fun time. And I think the comedy helps. I don't think I could listen to anyone who took themselves seriously and rapped in an old English accent. So
I don't think you're able to take yourself seriously if you're rapped in an old English accent.
So either. But yeah, I think it's definitely worth at least one listen. Whether or not you listen to it multiple times, you probably won't listen to it multiple times. Let's be honest.
I think it's fair to say that whenever we rank something a fixer-upper or higher, we're basically saying at least listen through it once. Mm-hmm. And then obviously the higher we rank it, we're like, this is something you can come back to.
I mean, there's only been a couple of albums we've listened to where I've been like, you're just completely wasting your time if you listen to this album. So it's definitely worth a listen. Bit comedy, something to have on while you're doing, like I was saying, like when I was mowing or something, just have on. Don't sit down and listen to this album is what I'm saying. That's not a good idea. Sit down,
bring over the girl that you're trying to date.
That might
put
be
it
fun.
on.
Do that.
Have a romantic evening.
Exactly. Flick on Rude Britannia, and it doesn't pay to turn up late to an orgy. That'll help you.
She'll appreciate it.
Mm-hmm. Oh. Well, then transitioning to the final scene of the show, then the spare tire. This is the little segment where we have our whatever we've been listening to this week, or anything we recommend, or something we've been listening to other than this album, because generally we listen to more music than just this album.
Yeah, this is a bit of an outro itself, right?
Yeah. You got anything you've been listening to this week, Coop?
Yeah, so every now and then I like to pick an artist and just listen through their whole discography.
I cannot do that.
When I get the chance, because it kind of helps, especially if it's like a pretty popular artist I've only touched on a little bit. It helps kind of build out their discography in my head. Gives me a little more historical kind of, I guess, placement for them.
Mm-hmm.
So recently, I at the start of the semester, I went with David Bowie because I've heard a couple of his lead singles. Let's Dance, that kind of thing.
Let's Dance. Never actually David Bowie. I guess.
Yeah, it is.
There's so many of his songs that you're like, man, that was him. Oh, that's weird.
Yeah, Let's Dance, Heroes. But actually, I remember because I first heard it on Dance Dance Revolution.
And let me tell you,
that's the first time I ever heard David Bowie
on Dance Dance Revolution.
But I committed to listening through his discography. May have been a little mistake now because it's bad music, but because he has 26 official studio albums.
Yeah.
And I listened through them all, and I'll say most of them were worth it. There are a couple duds there in the 80s and 90s where he wasn't exactly at top form. I can easily recommend at least a dozen of them.
That's crazy.
But my spare tire, I'd say, is actually his final studio album, released in 2016, titled Black Star.
And that was after his death, correct?
It's actually released, I think, 2 days before he died.
Okay.
Was it officially released? So this man he kept open the jaws of death so he could pump out one last album. So mad respect to David. And it is actually, I'd say, one of his best albums. Which is not many people that are 40 years deep into their musical career.
Yeah,
pumping out albums that are anything close to their originals.
Yeah.
So this stuff, Black Star, it's dark, it's brooding, it's a very strange album. I mean, this is him. He was dying of cancer, so he goes to some dark places in it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a tight 40-minute listen, and I recommend it just to see kind of like a guy who's lived basically his entire life in the limelight, kind of reflecting on life in general. It's a very unique listen, and I'd highly recommend it.
All right. My spare tire is actually kind of in the similar vein as Cooper's. I didn't sit down and listen to 26 studio albums, but
this is over a course of like a month and a half. I didn't do it in like a weekend.
That's a lot of albums over the course of a month and a half, though, dude. We only do this 4 times a month, so. But recently, within the previous couple of days, Electric Light Orchestra has released a new single titled From Out of Nowhere, off of their November 1st album this year, From Out of Nowhere, which I was commenting to Cooper on how it's kind of odd to release your titular song as a single, but they did, and I've been listening to it a lot, but I'm not vibing with it yet. And I will admit, it took me quite a while to warm up to Alone in the Universe, which was their 2015 album.
Which I think we can agree is a pretty great album.
Oh, it's probably one of my favorites. It's my go-to at this point. But listening, what I did was I listened to Alone in the Universe, and then like every 2 or 3 songs I would throw in From Out of Nowhere, and they did a style change again, and I just it's hard to wrap around it, because there's several stages of ELO, and I won't bore you with the details now since we're doing the outro, but the current day is much different than the early days, and this new one, I feel like it's just missing a little bit, and I really want to like it because I love ELO, and I'm thinking my opinion might change when the actual album comes out, because looking at some of the singles from Alone in the Universe, there was 1 or 2 of them that were like, yeah, those are good songs, but they're definitely not the best songs on the album.
Yeah, sometimes when a song's put like in the context of an album, you may appreciate it more.
Yeah, so, but this one is just missing a bit. But I've only listened to it 4 or 5 times, so 6 or 7 or 10, whatever. But I think
it's a rare occasion to get a new ELO album. This may be their last one. Jeff Lynne's like in his 70s now.
Yeah, and I will say you definitely can hear. There's some words he says in there where you can kind of hear his jowls kind of slapping around on the side of his face. He's got a bit of a marble mouth and some things. So it's, I don't know. It's change is hard to accept, especially when you've been listening to an artist for as long as you can remember. They're kind of the reason we started this podcast, because Cooper's
That's
like,
a little bit of an inspiration.
You got to stop listening to only ELO. You got to listen to some other music. So, but we'll see, and we'll definitely be reviewing that when it comes out. Probably not that Sunday, because that comes 100%. Out.
A little bit time to let it ruminate.
Yeah, it comes out on a Friday, so maybe the next Sunday, because I don't think 2 days is enough. But
I definitely think ELO, it has a special place in the audio shop.
And even if Cooper didn't say that, I would force it to have a special place. So
kind of out of sheer force of will.
Yeah. Well, thank you all for listening. This one is pretty long, but we had some good conversation. I think it was.
This is a fun one.
It was evolved into a bit more. I think it's good when we talk about a bit more than just the music.
Yeah. Audio shop. You're sitting around the shop waiting for the car to be fixed.
Yeah, shop talk, if you will.
Shoot the breeze.
Yeah. Well, again, thank you all for listening, and we will catch you next week with whatever album we decide to do as soon as we stop streaming. So.
Well, maybe not next week, since we will be out of town.
Oh, right, yeah. So we will not be doing a stream next week, since we will actually be hanging out together at a mutual friend's place. So.
Yeah, and
my laptop does not have the capability or the strength to do a stream. So
in 2 weeks' time, we'll be back with a fresh new album, and we hope to see you there.
Yeah. See you later, shoppies.
Oh, man. Every time.
Yeah. I'm glad Matt did it last time.
Really spiced it up.
It did.
All right. Catch you later, guys.
See ya.